in my view, these variants are going to keep on popping up. I'm one of the people that believe that the variants will dissipate in their effect over time as the global population becomes more immune to all of that, unless there's some really, really vicious strain that comes out. And I won't say it'll die a natural death, but the vaccinologists will tell you that in the end it'll probably just become a flu-like virus, which will hopefully, I say this only because it's certainly self-serving. We need that to be the case for the aviation industry to get going again, and for governments to reopen their borders to allow foreign travel to be as good and as strong as it was prior to the COVID pandemic. What we're finding that countries are taking positions as if it was the Delta variant, and therefore they are being fairly draconian in the short term, I believe. And then as it becomes apparent, I hope that this variant is not so potent in its effect on the population, that they'll relax the rules and people will become more ready to make bookings and travel. So on the back of the resurgence in demand post the dealing with the Delta variant, this was considered to be a possible setback in terms of what we're going to do in the next few months, even in December, of course, very strong for Dubai. I'm not convinced that we need to be that concerned about it. There are people who have genuine concerns about vaccinations, and you should respect that and find a way to deal with that. It is incredibly difficult to deal with, but the fact of the matter is that it seems that the vaccination program, SHIELD, is working against this particular set of variants. And it's likely, in my view, that the pharmaceutical companies, the medical research that's gone on with the greatest minds in the world today, all working on the same thing at the same time, it's likely that we will produce more vaccines which have a greater degree of efficacy than some of their predecessors. After all, it's early days. So I'm confident that shield will get stronger over time. To be quite honest, I would get rid of all the PCRs altogether. I would simply say that if you can evidence that you've had 2 or 3 vaccinations against, and using the vaccinations that are recognised by the World Health Organization, and we can, and IATA can digitise that process as the community, that should be good enough. After all, you're never going to protect everybody against everything. And after all, we've been living with the flu-like variants and viruses for thousands of years, frankly. Well, I guess, I'm one of these managers who's come up with, whether in my previous company or in Emirates in 1985, we've been an expansionist. We've been scaling at pace. We've been drawing in large amounts of people from all over the world, of all skills and whatever it may be. And the notion after 30 odd years of doing that, 35 years, that we would have to start throwing them out for no fault of their own, was something that was new to all of us. That was probably the biggest challenge that I might have faced in my career. I'm not used to laying off people. It's terribly, it's soul destroying, simply because very good people had to go for no fault of their own. But we always said, and we always believed, that we would restore the operation in the fullness of time. There was never a question that this was a paradigm shift of downsizing the business, revisiting the model, etc. We always knew that we would take it back to where it was and grow it at the pace that we always did, which meant that as consolation, if there was one, we knew we would be bringing people back. But it didn't help them who had to be laid off and lost their livelihoods and all the other bits and pieces that go with it. It was difficult for everybody, but we managed, and as you rightly say, we are now bringing back as many people as quickly as we can. All I would say is that our weekly profits are doubling by week. We're very pleased about that. Our production is up to about 65–70% of where it was before. We still have a number of 380 sitting on the ground. And that is mainly driven by the fact that we can't get the pilots and the crew at the pace that we would like to. We also have to retrain them, so we're not compromising or cutting any corners to make sure we have safety of operation with our operations. So the income is ticking up quite rapidly. Cargo has been our lifeblood over the last 18 months actually, and that continues to be very strong. So profits are up, the cash build is up, we've neutralised and are starting to rebuild our cash position, very important for our balance sheet. Whereas we had a very, very high net burn every month, that's been arrested, and now we're rebuilding that. Credit to everybody that's done the job. So fingers crossed, we're in much better shape than we thought we would be perhaps a year ago. But we never believed that we wouldn't be in that shape sometime in the next 6 or 9 months. So everything's going according to plan.